In 1942, the world was burning. Every border was a wound, and every nation bled into the next.
The Axis moved like a storm across continents, its iron armies swallowing nations and hope alike.
The German war machine turned east, seeking to break the Soviet heart before winter could rise against them. A nation on the edge refused to die. Its factories became its lungs, its people, its armor. In the war rooms of Berlin, generals drew lines across maps, dreaming of victory on the banks of the Volga.
They planned with precision every movement, every mile, convinced the city would fall within weeks.
They named it Operation Blue, a campaign of speed and precision, a blade meant to cut the Soviet heart in two. Steel and fuel filled the fields, engines roared to life, the German army ready to strike toward the east. Summer 1942. Across Europe, the storm begins to move, and the world holds its breath. They moved east without songs. The engines hummed like a single heart, and the silence grew heavier than thunder. The war had reached the steppes, where distance itself became a weapon, and winter was waiting in silence. They marched toward the city named for their enemy, unaware that the road ahead would lead into the mouth of history itself. Across the continent, the trains carried men and silence eastward. Through rain and smoke, they reached the edge of the world, where the wind cut like steel, and the land itself seemed to whisper that no one would return. At sunrise, the German army opened fire. The sky turned to flame, and the road to Stalingrad became a storm of steel. The German bombers appeared like shadows in the sun, and the sky itself began to scream. The city became a sea of fire. Smoke rose to the heavens, and the battle for Stalingrad had begun. In the heart of the broken city, General Zhukov took command. He would hold Stalingrad no matter the cost. The city became a maze of fire and dust. Soldiers fought room to room, street to street, every corner a battle for survival. Through smoke and ruin, the Red Army held the city, not with walls, but with their own flesh and faith. The streets became trenches, walls became weapons. Every shadow held a war of its own. To cross a street was to gamble with time, and every second cost a life. In the heart of the factory, men fought among the fires, as if the earth itself was forging them into ghosts. They hunted through silence, two ghosts, chasing the same heartbeat through the dust. The sniper waited for the breath between heartbeats, where death could pass unnoticed through the smoke. The city learned to lure its prey inside and burn the air itself to strike back. The theater burned without an audience. Its final act played to the silence of falling dust. They fought for every street, every room, every heartbeat. The city itself became a weapon. Across the Volga they came, through smoke and death. They crossed a river of fire to keep a dying city alive.
They crossed the river not towards safety, but into the fire that would not end until the water itself turned red.
The river that once gave life now carried only fire and names that no one would call again.
Winter itself marched beside them, and no wall of iron could stop its breath.
Came, and the city did not fall, nor did it live.
The hunters became the hunted. The city they sought to conquer had closed its jaws around them.
From the frozen earth, the Red Army rose. Their fire lit the horizon, and history turned its face.
The Sixth Army was gone, its soldiers frozen and broken. Stalingrad had swallowed them whole.
The Sixth Army no longer fought. It simply endured, waiting for salvation that would never come.
They moved through flame and ruin, their breath white, their hearts burning. The city began to breathe again. And in the silence after the last gunfire, Stalingrad fell, not as a city, but as a grave for an empire.
The snow fell without end, covering the living and the dead alike.
Men traded bullets for bread. They boiled leather belts and whispered prayers to the silence that answered nothing. And so the guns fell silent, not in victory, but in exhaustion, and the city breathed again. Inside the ruins, the wounded lay in rows, their breath white against the cold stone. Morning came, but it brought no sun, only the pale light of a sky too tired. They moved into the storm, believing it was the way out, but the snow closed behind them like a gate made of silence. The engines went quiet, one by one, until only the wind remained whispering over the dead convoy. They crossed the river, not to escape, but to disappear. The ice beneath them cracked like a promise breaking. They fought without orders, without hope, only the instinct to keep the fire burning one more hour against the dark. From the ruins, the Red Army rose stronger than before, turning the tide and driving the invaders back to the west. When the guns stopped, the snow kept falling, covering everything that had once been alive, and the city slept beneath it like a memory. The city that had swallowed armies now stood alone, its ruins breathing softly beneath the weight of snow. They walked without words, without direction, carrying the silence of the dead across the endless white turf.
In the hollow of the ruins, the living gathered their warmth like a secret.
Stalingrad was a grave for its defenders, the city itself bleeding brick by brick, yet still it refused to die.
Thousands of German soldiers lay where they fell.
From Stalingrad to Berlin, the Red Army carried the fire across a continent, ending the war it was never meant to win. The war ended, but the echo remained buried deep beneath the river and the streets, where life began again.